I propose Councillor Barry?
Yeah, and I second that.
Thank you. Thank you. Right. First of all, I'd like to welcome everybody here and just introduce ourselves on the subcommittee. My name's Barry Patman. I'm a borough councillor for Shinfield South, and I have Chris. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, Councillor Chris Baring, member for Woking Without.
And Jackie.
Councillor Jackie Rance. Can't think of the word. I represent Shinfield South. Sorry.
Right, now, does anybody have any interest to declare?
No.
No, thank you. Well, the procedure, that any information must be relevant to the licensing objectives, and that make sure that all of you understand this. The 4 licensing objectives are the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, the prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. And I'd now like to pass over to the licensing officer to introduce the hearing, please.
Many thanks, Chairman. My name is Karen Court. I'm the licensing officer in the team, in the enforcement and safety team, and I'd like to present the report to you this morning.
So I'm sorry to interrupt, Chair. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just noticed that the applicant isn't on the meeting. I don't know whether it'd be useful to just check whether any of the officers have heard from the applicant, or whether they've got any ability maybe just to give him a ring to see whether he is going to attend or not. It might be advisable. Sorry to interrupt, Karen.
Thank you, Neil. Good point. And we did actually cover this yesterday. We made another follow-up call to the applicant yesterday to try and establish contact, but I'm afraid we've not been able to establish any response at all.
That's fine. Sorry, Karen. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. Thank you, Neil. Thanks for raising the point. So this morning's panel hearing is for the panel to consider the application. It's a temporary event notice submission, which was made by Mr. Tom Sewell for the site at Heriots in Wokingham Road in Hurst for an event on the 30th of July. The information we have on the event is that it's to be held on private land. We have very little information other than that it's from 12 o'clock on the 30th of July through till 4 a.m. the following morning. We have requested further information from the applicant. We've also asked him to submit a safety advisory group notification with an event management plan so that we can have more details on the event. But unfortunately, we haven't received any further information at all on that. As I say, the application is detailed in your bundle pack, so you have the information. In view of this, Environmental Health, knowing about a previous event on this land, submitted their representation, and with the panel's consent, I would invite Elizabeth Gordon to address the panel shortly. Thames Valley Police have also raised their objection, and I would again invite Gary Clark to address the panel shortly with his issues from the Thames Valley Police perspective, if you're all in agreement with that. The options are for the panel to consider the application. Because there is no premises licence in force for this particular land, there is not the option for conditions to be added. That's only when there's an existing licence in force. So although there is no officer recommendation, the option that we have put to you is that it is possible for the panel to agree to serve a counter notice against the 10 notification. I think that covers my my details. With your permission, I would then like to pass back and perhaps ask Elizabeth Gordon and Gary Clark to speak on behalf of the responsible authorities. Thank you, Chairman.
Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt again. I just took the moment while Karen's speaking just to check the regulations in terms of what to do when a party is absent. And it does require the panel to consider a few more things before we continue. Can I just read out the regulation, please?
Surely.
It's Regulation 20 of what's known as the Hearing Regulations 2005. And the first, I have to ask a few questions of the officers. Is it okay if I proceed to do that? Because that will help tidy some of these things up.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, it's just, Karen, has there been any contact from the applicant to say that he would be attending?
Thank you, Neil. Yes, to answer that, I did speak to the applicant once. He indicated that he would probably most likely not attend a panel hearing. We've then sent the invite out in the normal way, and as I say, made follow-ups to try and establish that contact. But one conversation I did have, I did get the impression that perhaps he would not be attending the hearing.
Yeah, and one quick question on that. You said you made a telephone call yesterday. Was that to the same number that you had the discussion with him earlier on?
Yes, that's correct. It was.
It was. So, okay, well, I think we can assume that that's a good number for him. Chair, just to explain the law, what I'm looking at is I'm going to use subparagraph 2 of Regulation 20 because it's not clear whether he was intending to attend or not. But we're assuming that if he had indicated that he was going to attend, then what the panel has to do is consider whether it's necessary in the public interest to either adjourn the hearing or hold the hearing in the absence, in the party's absence. So that is really the first question for the subcommittee. If you need to deliberate about that, I'd suggest that we try and go into a private session in order to do that. But that's the first question you need to ask yourselves before we can carry on today.
Okay, what do other members feel about that? Any points? Chris, how about you?
But there doesn't seem to be an indication from Mr. Sewell that he wishes to attend. I don't see there's a likelihood that he wishes to do so in the future. So I think we should hear it. We should complete the hearing today.
Yes. Yes. Jackie, have you got any thoughts on that?
Sorry, he's had ample warning, and I agree we should continue.
And Chair, in which case it sounds it's clear that you're of the view that it's in the public interest to proceed, particularly as it's not likely would attend if you did adjourn it. Then the only thing I need to remind you of is subsection 3 of Regulation 20, where you go on to hold the hearing in the absence of the party. You have to consider the application and any representations made by the applicant on the papers. Chair, beyond that, then the hearing is okay to proceed in his absence.
Okay.
Chair, thank you for that time. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. So should we continue with the licensing officer's report then, please?
Just on the last point, he has made no representations, has he? So that last point is not relevant. Is that correct?
What I mean is anything he's put in writing that's in the pack in front of you, you need to consider, which from memory is purely his application.
I see. Thank you.
That's correct, Neil. Just to confirm that you have the application in front of you, so you have the actual 10 submission in front of you, and that's the information we have in writing.
Okay. Would you like to continue with your representation then?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I think I've covered the detail and the basis. The rest is actually contained in the report. I think I've summarised the detail. With your consent, I would like to ask both the responsible authorities to address the panel with their thoughts on this application, please.
Okay.
Could I ask a question of Karen first? Is that correct? Chairman?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Karen, have licensing officers visited the site?
No, we are aware of the site. It's an open field in Hurst on farmland.
Is there any evidence that you could deduce from the site itself that might be relevant to an application such as this?
other than that, it's on the side of the road in Hurst, just off the A321. There is in effect a gate and gated access into the field. We've had no communication from the landowner or anything, so no, it's basically it is a field in Hurst where there's a proposal to hold an event, but no other detail on that, I'm afraid.
Okay, thank you.
Responsible authorities that who wishes to speak? Anything from,
I
please?
have no question.
Sorry, Elizabeth Gordon here. Did you want me to speak?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, Mr. Patman, I can barely hear you. I've tried turning you up. Okay, thank you. I put in my concerns and then an objection to this because we had a huge event about 8 years ago where a lot of complaints, well, over 80 complaints came in over the noise that came from what turned out to be a rave, but had been signposted as a family event known as Food for Thought, which was going to have all sorts of games, you know, face painting, things like that, so family orientated, and it turned out to be nothing like it had been represented in the temporary event notice. So we basically had our fingers burnt from that, and when I saw this temporary event notice coming in again, yes, it's 8 years on, very similar event, but asking to go on until 4 in the morning, and bearing in mind that when the event happened the first time, the police were powerless to do anything. They couldn't stop it, and there were, say, over 80 complaints the next day. And to be fair, when I saw this come in again, I thought we can't put the residents through that again. And then when Mr. Sewell then didn't respond to any other emails or phone calls from me, I'm afraid that really flagged it up for me as something that wasn't going to be acceptable and would certainly constitute a public nuisance if it went ahead.
Any questions, anybody?
Yes. The event that happened in 2014, was that anything to do with Mr. Sewell?
It wasn't anything to do with Mr. Sewell, but it is the same landowner and the same place. Now, obviously, we could say this is a completely different generation of people, but my concerns were for our residents with something going on until 4 o'clock in the morning, come what may, and also an event for which we are getting no extra information about what will actually happen. Well, I mean, the only hint I had from Mr. Sewell when I spoke to him the one and only time, he said, "Oh, well, I haven't organised a playlist yet, but there'll be a bit of Scar, I expect," which wasn't actually information enough. And so my concerns are that, you know, if he's not willing to talk to us about what he's actually going to do, what is he trying to hide?
Okay, you described it as this proposal as a similar event. There's very little detail about this one. In what way do you say it's a similar event to the 2014 event?
Sorry, because of the hours. It's a strange set of hours to be holding an event that's okay. It just feels to me like this is going to be a rave, and this is what I was trying to avert.
Right, so you're sort of saying that if it were a family event, it wouldn't be going on into the dead of night.
No.
I see. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes, I was concerned about the fact that it was going on until 4 o'clock in the morning because I mean, that is a fairly quiet area around there, and you've got open fields around. The noise from that could travel quite a distance. with regards to that aspect of it. Those are the sort of questions I would have been asking had the applicant been here with regards to that. And of course, we haven't got the ability to do that at this moment in time. That makes it more difficult.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to add that was exactly the reason why we asked for a safety advisory group notification, because that would have started the process and that would have started to draw in the information about the type of event, the safety precautions in place. All we have at the moment is that it's a live music event with one stage sale of alcohol and food. That's all the detail we have, and obviously a SAG notification would have drawn out more information for you. Thank you.
Do you ever have any other responsible authorities that wish to make any points?
Yes, could we also ask Gary Clark of Thames Valley Police to now address the panel?
All right, yeah.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. From Thames Valley's perspective, we were aware of the objection that was going to be put in by EHO. I mean, I did some research, but I couldn't find anything on police records about the incident some 8 years ago. And I did even ask officers that were working, hopefully, on the neighbourhood team around that time, but nothing really came to light. All I would say is that initially, when this application came in, one of my colleagues oversaw it and was happy that with the objection going in from EHO, that initially Thames Valley Police were put in a no objections reply. However, as the trail of emails have gone on, and basically due to the lack of engagement from Mr. Sewell, I have now formally objected to this application. Now, the background checks that we ran on him have only produced one report. It's an intelligence report dated July 2020, which states that Mr. Sewell and his girlfriend had posted items on Facebook, including a picture that suggests they are involved in the rave scene. Now, that's basically the only record we have for Mr. Sewell. You may be aware, you may not, but the police did have to break up a rave down in Crowthorne about 2 to 3 weeks ago. Obviously, the other slight point of concern is the date of this, going from the 30th into the 31st, Saturday into Sunday morning. I would imagine, my children are older now, but I would have thought that's going to be the first major weekend of holidays for state children. And obviously police resources would be stretched at that time. So if there was any major incident, it would probably have a severe implications on the policing of not only Bracknell and Wokingham, but probably Reading and Windsor and Maidenhead as well. And that's, as I say, it's really the total lack of engagement from the applicant that makes us feel very uncomfortable with this proposed event.
Thank you. Yes, I'm concerned about with regards to that aspect of it, and also from the point of view of us making any decisions. How do we move forward now without the applicant being here?
Chair, if I can assist, in terms of you have to take into account what the applicant wrote. Then maybe just for the record, just check that every member of the panel has read, well, first thing, read the pack, taken note of what the applicant has put, and maybe confirms that the case during the course of this hearing, for just for the record, and also if there's any questions for the officers arising from what the applicant has put, to ask those officers.
Okay. Members, do you have any questions about the document that we've received?
No, but I can confirm I've read it.
Yes, and I also read it. Jackie, have you read the
Yeah, I confirm I read it all. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
There seems to be no evidence there. Yeah.
No. Chair, with your permission, can I just ask the officers just one question that might assist you, and just for clarification, either of them can probably answer this, but we've had the word rave used, but how do officers, what is a rave? How do officers define that, please?
Chair, would you like me to answer that?
Yeah. Okay.
For me, what I understand a rave to be is loud music and a very large event with lots of people coming in and out, and it tends something that tends to be advertised on local media, on social media, sort of fairly last minute, so that groups of youngsters, I use the word loosely, sort of young teenagers will sort of all group together and get there and just have this very loud music event that will go on for hours. Quite often, you know, you hear of them going on till 5 or 6 in the morning, but essentially there's going to be a lot of people and a lot of loud bassy music, because the sort of music that is played is kind of garage and house, really heavy bass beats, and it's the bass, the long wave that travels, and that is what will disturb, apart from maybe a lot of traffic banging up the roads and everything, that it will be the bass that travels and will travel miles. If it's a night where there is high pressure, then those very long bass sound waves will travel miles. If it's a windy night, it will go in one direction only, probably, and affect people in one area of the borough. But if it's high pressure, which is kind of likely in July and good weather, the sound will travel, and rave music is very bassy and very repetitive.
I would also add that basically there'll be no sort of tickets sold or anything like that. I mean, you might get 200 people turn up, you might get 2,000 people turn up. You know, it'll be on social media. There won't be any controls in place. There won't be any security. If we look on the, you have to say that these type of events are associated with crime and disorder. Certainly drugs will be available. It's just something you just do not want to contemplate, certainly in a village like Hurst.
Well, I must say, I think this is grossly unfair. For a start, we've just been told that raves are advertised at the last minute. This isn't being advertised at the last minute. How can it be a rave then? And what evidence is there that Mr. Sewell is planning crime and disorder? What and all the other points Mr. Clark made? What's the evidence for this?
Well, this is purely, we were discussing what a rave was. No, we're not saying
it doesn't appear to be a rave from the definition that was okay.
This is what our concerns are, that it could potentially be. You could be right. It could be a perfectly well-run family event, face painting, but because this guy has not engaged with us to give us that kind of information, I appreciate the panel has got great difficulty to decide what they think this event is going to be. And until we get that kind of information, I think it would not be prudent to grant this application.
May I say the dictionary definition of a rave features fast-paced, repetitive electronic music, and as well as arrangements for drugs and sex. And I don't think a 16-hour event is a family event. And going on till 4 o'clock in the morning, it's not a family event, and it's not conducive to friendliness. It's dreadful noise. Too risky, I would have said, without any information from this chap whatsoever.
Yes. Well, that's my biggest concern, is the fact that we've not had any response whatsoever, and this would have been his opportunity to say to us, exactly what was, they were expecting to go on, and what circumstances might exist. As it stands at the moment, there's a certain amount of conjecture as what might actually be the event itself, but the fact that it's going on till 4 o'clock in the morning doesn't give me any confidence that it's going to be an event that would be normally acceptable in that area, to be honest. But obviously we need to discuss that later on. Yes, sorry, you've got your hand up.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I just really wanted to reinforce that from the licensing point of view. It was interesting. I kind of let both Gary and Elizabeth give you their points from the responsible authority point of view, because obviously they've got a particular interest in public nuisance, crime and disorder, protection of children from harm, and also public safety would obviously come into it. I think we're looking at all 4 licensing objectives coming into this. We have tried very hard. There have been numerous emails, as I think everyone knows, trying to engage with the applicant, trying to start that SAG process, which would have then been, if we'd been able to do that, we could have brought more information to the hearing for you today. We could have said, we have more information about this event, this is what it's involved, this is the type of music, this is the audience. All we have at the moment is there'll be a maximum of 499 people, but as you know, that is the limit for a temporary event notice. So just to really reinforce what both responsible authorities have been saying, it's that total lack of engagement and lack of information that we've received that has really raised some concerns from the licensing perspective as well, backed up, obviously by environmental health and the police. Thank you for letting me clarify that, Chairman.
Thank you. So how do we move forward now? Because we haven't got the applicant here to respond to any of the questions and so forth. So do we move forward to or in terms of the subcommittee asking any questions, and we really haven't got any questions to be able to get an answer to.
So sorry, Chair, I would suggest in terms of the procedure, you're probably at point 17, which is you just need to check whether anyone else present has got any other points they want to make from the representatives, or if any other panel members have got questions, just to wrap things up.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Do any members have any further questions which they would like to ask, or any other officers?
No, thank you.
No, it seems to have. Right. In that case, then we move to discussions. And
Chair, before you do, sorry, one last thing, just to dot the I's legally, is probably just for the record, just to advise you, the basis of your decision is under section 105, subsection 2 of the Licensing Act. And it's really having regard to the objection notice, i.e. that put in by Environmental Health and supported by the police, that you're to give the premises user a counter notice if you consider it appropriate for the promotion of a licensing objective to do so. That counter notice can be to say that the event is not going to go ahead, or the event is going to go ahead. But the legal test is whether it's appropriate to take whatever action you think for the promotion of a licensing objective.
In that case, if there are no further questions, can we move to item 19 as the subcommittee to determine the application. So those of you who are not in, it's only members that will be involved in that. And so if you, the rest of you, if you haven't got any further points, thank you very much for